Hi, I'm back from my holidays and with 5 bangers no less. Not sausages mind you, games. I have the coolest brawler fighter combo for you, a little RPG adventure, one of the best puzzlers ever made, beautiful and thought-provoking action-adventure title, and finally, a standalone total conversion mod that brings out the best RP in RPG. So let's not waste any more time here and check them all out. Mazin Saga Mutant Fighter has one of the most amazing titles and 1990s vibes that you've ever seen. I mean, what's more hardcore than fighting mutants and a whole saga about it? It sounds like a title of one of those low-budget, high-action early 1990s movies that were just popping up left and right between all the major releases. You know, those that were so terrible, badly acted and with paper-thin stories that they were ironically great and hidden cult classics. Same here, with a difference that Mazin Saga is not terrible at all. In fact, it only has one real issue that I could think of, and all the other ones that you can somehow find in it, if you really look deep, are superficial stuff only. So what is its biggest problem, you may wonder? It's too short. Way too short. It's only 5 stages of non-stop arcade action, and that's at least another 5 too few. I mean, sure, I get it that it's simultaneous arcade and Genesis releases, so it was made to pose a considerable challenge and eat up coins like Hungry Hungry Hippos, or Hungry Hungry Mutants, cause that's more fitting, but as soon as you jump in, get used to its flow and that traditional arcade punishing difficulty, you'll want more. Anyway, Mazin Saga is one of those games that were somehow overlooked by grand majority of gamers and quietly disappeared into background of gaming history as soon as it arrived in the foreground. So let me give you a quick rundown of what it actually is. In the dark future of 1999, the world is in chaos. The evil entity known as God Kaiser Hell began an all-out invasion of Earth using powerful and deadly giant monsters known as bio-beasts, and pushed the remaining survivors into hiding deep underground where it's still relatively safe. I'd like to add here that Kaiser, if I'm not wrong, means cheese in German, so while the story is in fact cheesy as hell, the gameplay is pretty cool. Now, playing as a courageous and just warrior/scientist Koji Kabuto, you'll have to wield your Mazinger Z armor and face the monstrosities, fighting to free the world of bio-beasts once and for all. Didn't I tell you that it would have made an awesome terrible 1990s movie? Yep, I sure did. Anyway, as I mentioned initially, Mazin Saga is split into 5 large stages taking place in Tokyo, Asia, Europe, New York and Egypt respectively. Yeah, weird combination of cities, countries and continents, but whatever. We're not here to question the motivation/geography knowledge of the devs, we're here to have fun. Each of those areas is additionally divided into 4 sub-stages. First 3 of these are played in a beat-em-up formula, in which, traditionally for its genre, you push from left to right, pacifying hundreds if not thousands of bodies in a melee-style combat, teaching them how stupid it is to come barehanded into an obvious sword fight. Cause yeah, you have one. There are quite a few different moves in this one, and it's a rather pleasant if not particularly innovative for the genre experience. You get to find pickups in these levels too, and while they don't change the gameplay at all really, mostly being either health refills, extra lives points and such, they do make the challenge more bearable. So it's cool to keep an eye on them and not skip them, as Mazin Saga is not easy. The 3 brawling stages are then followed by the 4th, which is realized in a 1v1 fighting style and serves as the boss fight. If you compare those sections to games like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, they won't feel too great. I mean, sure, they offer a selection of their own special moves completely different from those in beat-em-up stages, but they're not on the same quality/polish level as games made from ground up to be fighters. Comparing them to it, however, would be silly, as they are just boss sections in otherwise differently playing game. And as such, they are more than enough to keep the gameplay fresh and the flow going. Especially that each of the bosses is unique, requires different approach and strategy to beat, and that the graphics, particularly the sprites, are pretty detailed, large and smoothly animated. Mazin Saga Mutant Fighter may not be the best game you've not played, but it's definitely one of the most interesting and worth trying out Sega Genesis games that you've not known about. And if you did actually, then hey, why don't you let me know in the comments below. Remember how in mid-1990s voxels were all the rage and were expected to take over from traditional rendering methods soon because of their speed and accuracy of depicting of 3D objects and environments? Yep, me neither. But there were a few games that banked on the tech and, for better or worse, used it in their design. It was mainly simulations of 3D shooters, but mainly is not only. And one of them is today's 1998's top-down fantasy light RPG, Hexplore. I say light RPG, as at times it feels a bit more like an action-adventure game with tons upon tons of different puzzles to figure out and solve. There are different character classes, up to 4 members in your party, each with a decent selection of stats, so worry not, it is an RPG, just more an arcade rather than strategic side. There are also weapons and armor, I mean of course there are, like or not, it is an RPG, so if you're into all that stuff, Hexplore definitely delivers. What may surprise you though is how the game actually plays. Because you control your characters in real time in a top-down view, well, initially a character, and characters when you recruit them, and Hexplore feels more like an RTS in that regard. So you click where you'd like your group to go, and click on where or whom or what you'd like them to attack. It may take a minute to get used to, but you will, and will even learn to appreciate it, as there is a bit of strategy to it too. Namely, you should get at least 1, or better yet 2 ranged attackers. And when you do, make sure to try to take the enemies one by one from afar for as long as it's possible before engaging in melee, as regaining health in Hexplore is notoriously difficult. While some may find that kind of an approach rather annoying and a busy work, also questioning need for the melee characters at all, if it's best to fight from afar, believe you me, the story, which is served in small tidbits, fueling your curiosity about what will happen next, will keep you glued to the screen all throughout the game. Or until you get tired of it crashing, as if memory serves well, it was prone to break quite often. Hexplore is set in, or around the year 1000 AD, during the Crusades, in an alternate version of our history, where magic, monsters and mystery existed. I mean, I'm not saying that there are no mysteries in our world at all, there sure are, for instance the way that YouTube algorithm works, or how come we get to sometimes see double or triple rainbows, or why do we always have to pee after pooing, what gives with all of that. But the game has different kinds of mysteries, you know, magical kind. Anyway, you play as MacBride, so a light version of MacGyver, as in not being able to create electricity out of the leaf suspended in water, but being quite proficient at breaking skulls with a sword, which, truth be told, is also a skill that's rather useful in the game's dark times. So you're searching for this evil black wizard Garkham, who've captured and imprisoned your original party members. To do so, you'll encounter and hire for your group numerous adventurers of either warrior, archer or sorcerer archetype, and travel through over 200 unique puzzles and monsters-filled levels. While you can hire braves for your party, you don't have to, and can try to complete the game alone. It is difficult, very difficult in fact, but shouldn't be impossible if you're careful or have abundant time to attempt it time after time again. Don't know how fun that would be, but it's doable. Also, these 3 extra slots in your group can actually be filled with real-life players, and when they are, it's naturally a much more fun and fulfilling experience. Easier to manage too. While there's no real character progression in Hexplore, which you know is a staple of traditional RPG, you at the very least get to swap out and try out different character combinations and don't have to worry about exchanging a good team composition for one that would not work. So while it's not something that could sub for being able to better your team over time, it's not nothing either. Also, when your character dies, it turns into a ghost, which then you have to lead to a resurrection point to bring it back to life. But, and I would like to strongly advise that, before you do that, it's good to use said ghost to scout out the map a little and figure out what challenges and enemies may lay ahead of you for that extra bit of intelligence before you're back on your feet. While the RPG elements of Hexplore may be on the weaker side, the presentation of it is rather nice, the puzzles are engaging and well thought out, and the story is fantastic. So even if Hexplore won't tickle that role-playing bone of yours too much, it may still be a fun, lighter experience to fire up for a few levels here and there just to relax between other, bigger and more demanding games.
Let's go. Magic lamps.
The incredible machine, even more Contraptions, is the, I don't know, 6th, 7th or whatever the game in the long-running series of, well, there's no better word for it really, incredible puzzle games by Sierra Online. So it's a sequel to Return of the Incredible Machine Contraptions, which was a sequel to the Incredible Toon Machine, which followed the Incredible Machine 3.0, that was an extended version of the Incredible Machine 2, which in itself succeeded Sidenal's Incredible Toons, that came after the even more Incredible Machine, that followed original The Incredible Machine. Oh my god, that's a lot. But I think that you get the gist that there were a lot of them, and there's reason for it. It's a pretty sleek and fantastic series that was beloved by all of those that had a chance to sample its super fun design. And the even more Contraptions outing we're talking about today is the last and final in the original series. It's also virtually identical to year prior's Return of the Incredible Machine, and I mean it quite literally too. It's not similar, it's the same thing, only with, well, even more contraptions. It's in the title, after all. So it includes over 250 puzzles, 50 of which the so-called tutorial puzzles are the same as in that earlier game. The remaining 200, however, are completely new and unique and should provide for hours if not days of fun. If you've somehow never heard of the Incredible Machine games, let me explain what they're all about, so that you know what you've missed out on playing those shooters, racers, or zerg rushing into completion. They are basically Rube Goldberg machine simulators with a twist. The twist being that they don't really have to follow any logic or reason and can be made to fulfill some really ridiculous or pointless tasks. So in each stage you are given an objective to complete, and it's usually something very simple, like making sure that a particular ball falls into equally as particular basket, or the mouse gets to the cheese, because you know, they do love the cheese, or even that some objects are moved from one location to another. You know, from point A to point B, so to speak. It's very rarely more complicated than that, but as easy as it may sound, making it happen, especially in those latter stages, may require a few attempts, few silly fails along the way, couple of broken mice, and to really get your noggin going before you eventually succeed. So to create a working and more importantly completing the task at hand machine naturally requires a plan and a few different components. And for each stage you're getting a selection of seemingly random items from more than 100 different ones included in the game. And this can be a whole manner of different oddities, like bricks, bowling balls, scissors, ropes, pulleys, cheese, yeah, cheese, like the one on your pizza or pasta or ham and cheese sandwich, candles, lighters, rockets, pipes, monkey-powered motors. You've heard that right, I did not misspoke. The point is, if you can think of something that could somehow find its way into a Rube Goldberg contraption, chances are it's actually in the game already, and sooner or later you'll get to use it one way or another. So you may get a fan, a string and a couple of shelves and a piece of cheese to complete the stage, and with all that you'll need to build a system that will fulfill the task assigned to you. It's just an example obviously, and a selection of items is usually a bit more robust, but you will definitely have to think outside of the box to do well. The idea here is to arrange and rearrange all these objects on the screen endlessly until you find a way to complete your given task. So finding the right, often not obvious or straightforward way to use these items is a key to success. It's also very satisfying to observe it all play out when all of the items connect and begin working as a singular system, especially in those latter, more demanding stages. But whether particular levels are easy or difficult, it's irrelevant, because The Incredible Machine Even More Contraptions is a fantastic title and a time well spent. More importantly, it's a very universal kind of a game that can be enjoyed by gamers of all ages, genders, beliefs and kinds, and everyone can have fun with its unique twist on puzzling mechanics. I'm sure that most, if not all of you, either know or at the very least heard about Shadow of the Colossus, a fantastic action-adventure tale of a young man seeking power to revive a girl named Mono. Power that required him to find and defeat 16 massive beings spread across a huge forbidden land. Well, Ico, which many of you most likely never even heard of, is supposedly Colossus's predecessor. At least spiritually, because the story between the two is not connected in any meaningful way. It's still an action-adventure title, but with a lot of platforming elements and based on a fantasy take on a boy meets girl concept. And at times it feels more like a work of art rather than the game. Don't worry though, the gameplay is all there, it's just the presentation, design, story and aesthetics that make it appear a bit art-like. Anyway, you play as Ico, a horned boy who is captured against his will by a group of warriors and then taken into the Desolate Castle to be sacrificed. All because being born with horns is supposedly an evil omen. I'm not a religious person, so I don't know much about that, but I've played a few RPGs where horned beings, especially of the female kind, were rather attractive. Arushela from Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous comes to mind in particular, so the evil omen / bad luck thing don't really speak to me at all. Anyway, so they lock you away inside the stone coffin, from which you luckily manage to escape soon after. And as you explore the castle, you come across Yorda, a captive girl who speaks a different and unknown to you language. Given your big, warm and good heart, you release her and take her with you so that the both of you could escape the castle. As it turns out, while she's incapable of defending herself because of her rather fairy-like physique and pure soul, and you will have to do all the fighting for the both of you, she is magically linked to the castle and can use her inner powers to open various gates and for puzzling. And thus, the connection between the two former strangers will form and will take them on this amazing, beautiful and captivating adventure. Ico plays largely like a three-dimensional platformer with an exception that you control both characters at once. Ico directly and Yorda in a very simplified manner. So you can ask her to follow you or stay somewhere and will have to help her in traversal by giving her boost to cross tall barriers or by rearranging their environment to allow her passage among others. And you do so by pushing and pulling objects and solving puzzles along the way. It's a simple concept at heart, but so well designed and with such attention to detail that playing Ico feels like being a part of an enchanted fairy tale. The castle's filled with evil shadow creatures that will not only attack you but also try to pull away Yorda into dark vortexes if she's left alone for too long. It's worth pointing out that they cannot really harm Ico, but if they manage to grab Yorda and take her away, the game ends. Interestingly enough, European and Japanese versions of the game offer sort of a, but not really, a New Game Plus mode, so when you complete the game once, you can restart it in a 2-player co-op mode with the second player taking control of Yorda. She is still under the same limitations as when you've played alone, but the experience gets more personal that way. I really think that the mode should be available from the get-go and that American audiences would get access to it too. But what I think is unimportant, and the fact remains that it is what it is and it's never going to change. While Ico and Yorda can't really communicate, the connection between the two, the symbiosis-like understanding between the young captives, is more than prominent, and you can feel, from the first time that they meet and join forces so to speak, that their potential success is intertwined and that neither could ever succeed on their own. They're like yin-yang, brains and muscle, Batman and Robin, well, maybe not that last one, but they are a team, their own only chance, and they've been made for each other. Ico is amazing, check it out. Some might say that Enderal Forgotten Stories should have never found its way to this video, as it's not a standalone game, but just a mod for Skyrim. And all I can say to them really is, chill out, it's not a mod, it's a total conversion, and it's definitely a game of its own. More than that in fact, as in some ways, it's better than the game which engine powers it all. First of all, it has nothing to do with Tamriel or Elder Scrolls at all, and it tells its own story taking place in the titular land of Enderal, land steeped in its own unique ancient mysteries. You play as someone known as the Prophet, a survivor of a shipwreck, and one touched by the visions of impending apocalypse. You're also one who discovers his newly acquired magical powers, weirdly tied to traumatic memories and events. Being considered a prophet definitely has its perks, but it also has its downsides too. Namely, people relying on you to prevent the unpreventable. So, you are hired, or more likely tasked by the so-called Order, to find a way to prevent the cleansing. A cyclical apocalyptic event that eradicates advanced civilizations. If all of that stings to you a little of Mass Effect, good, it has a very similar vibe. Story-wise at least, as the setting is definitely on the fantasy rather than sci-fi side of things. As the game will progress, you'll uncover that the cleansing isn't in fact a natural phenomena, but instead it's orchestrated by the beings known as the High Ones who feed on human consciousness. In short, for them, Enderal is like a big pot in which they cook the stew for eons, as in let the civilizations emerge, grow and prosper, and when there's plenty of them advanced enough and on the brink of another evolutionary break, the stew is ready and the High Ones consume it. It's a rather dark tale, story, or whatever else you wanna call it, and it touches a lot on religion and atheist themes alike and will leave you pondering about these philosophies as you play the game all throughout it. I'm not gonna spoil the story of it anymore, but if you do own Skyrim already, this free total conversion that's conveniently available through Steam is a no-brainer and your next favorite fantasy RPG that you've never experienced. The world of Enderal, while smaller than Skyrim, more or less the size half of Bethesda's game world, is gorgeous. It's very diverse and features plenty of greenery, ice and even desert biomes, looking considerably more appealing than those of snow-covered Skyrim. Especially that all of them have their own atmosphere, ambience and soundtracks, feeling like a truly distinct areas. There are also a lot of points of interest, places and locations big and small to find and discover, and doing so will be a big part of fun you'll be having. What's more, the biggest city of Enderal really feels like a capital and not just a mesh of few small side streets like it did in Skyrim. So while the overall scope of the game is smaller and more contained, where there's supposed to be grandiose and suspense, there they are, and you never really feel like something's really only told to you and you don't get to experience it. Kinda like it was with the dragon powers in Skyrim. They were supposed to be these huge game changers to make you feel like a demigod or whatever, and truth be told, I hardly ever used them. Anyway, the Enderal is also a considerably more demanding game. Its enemies are stronger, more aggressive and with more health, but also feeling more rewarding when you persevere. So beware, particularly at the very beginning of your adventure, as nearly anything in the game world is capable of soloing you if you're not careful. The health does not regenerate on its own either, and you need to use spells, foods and potions to keep it in check. Some may not like it, but I find it more realistic and challenging mechanic. The same goes for fast traveling or lack thereof, which encourages exploration and discovery. I mean, sure, there are these Myrats that can take you to different spots around the map for a fee, or you can even teleport to a previously marked destination point, but you just can't zoom around between all the places in the world instantly. It's just not that kind of a game. And yes, it's a job at Starfield and how it was all fast travel and no spaceship flying. I mean, it allowed you to create this really cool ship for you just to sit back and fast travel all around the universe. It sucked. But I digress. While Enderal may be a smaller and more linear experience than Skyrim, mostly because of the size of the team that worked on it, it does offer some side quests and a lot of environmental discovery, so even if it will take you much less time to take it all in than it would in Skyrim, you'll never feel bored or like wasting time. The leveling system is completely revamped for the game too, making for a much more customizable and personal feeling build and inviting creativity and consecutive replays with different characters. I mean, same could probably be said about Bethesda's flagship game too, but we've done it all many times already, so there isn't that much fun in it anymore. To summarize it all, Enderal is a freaking achievement in free video game design. I mean, I feel that the devs should have been instantly paid for it and hired by Bethesda in one sweep move, as they definitely know how to make engaging and satisfying content, and I'm not sure that the Big B does anymore. So if you enjoy well-written, voiced and acted out story, beautiful and meticulously crafted worlds, incredibly deep and with believable backgrounds companions, and completely free grand RPG adventures, and don't mind little bugs here and there, Enderal is definitely a title you should try out. So what do you think? Cool games today, right? Yeah, I think so too. Did you play any of them, or maybe will now? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. And when you're down there already, why not do me a solid and help the channel grow by hitting those like, sub, share and bell icons too, for YouTube to let you know when I release something new. I'm done for today, so take care of yourself, eat great food and play games. Peace.